how did I end up here? Well, it started long time ago. I was about 12 or 13 years old. That was the time when you start liking girls, or at least for the most part. And testosterone was kicking in, and there was one girl I had a crush on in my class, but I was way too shy to go up to her. I didn't even know what to say. And so I decided to write a little love note, and I planned on giving it to her and running away. But I was still too shy to do that, right? So I was hiding it under my desk. And then eventually, of course, my classmates exposed me, and they gave it to her. And at first, I saw her from a distance. She was all happy. She was like, "Oh, who is it? Who likes me? Who likes me?" And then when she found out it came from me, she came up with this piece of paper and she looked at me and said, "Did you write this?" I'm like, all nervous. She goes, "Well, if you did, would think I'm gonna go with you? Look at you, you're fat." And that was literally her words. "Look at you, you're fat." And so, as you can imagine, that was a slap in my face, right? Hurtful, yes, but now looking back, I'm actually grateful that she did that, because she changed my entire life. From that moment on, I wanted to know everything about nutrition, bodybuilding, fitness, how to burn fat, so nobody ever can say that to me. I lost about 20 pounds in 2 weeks. I was running every single day after school. I was eating 1 apple per day. I didn't know any better back then, and it worked. And also, I can't even tell you how many books I was reading about, dieting and bodybuilding, like countless books. And then at some point, it also made it very easy then, to pick a topic, in college, which was nutritional science. And then I also applied, there's another important aspect. I witnessed my grandma deteriorating, in front of me. She had a stroke, and my mom had to take care of her. And so she was bedridden, and I saw her every single day. For the most part, she couldn't even recognize me. And that also created this fear, right? Like, is that gonna be me one day? That somebody's gonna change my diaper and I can't even talk no more or recognize my own family. That also created this, fear, you can say. But thank God it didn't affect me in a negative way. Thank God, I actually made something out of it, and I studied, and wanted to gain all the knowledge so that I'm not ending up like this. All right, so that's enough about me. Just so you know how I got started. And then, at 18, 19, I applied for, foreign exchange student in the United States for season, which is the university in Northridge. I got denied, and then all of a sudden, after 4 years, I got approved. And it was like a dream come true. And then I left everything behind. Within 6 months, I was out of there, and I was, in the United States. And then from there, obviously there were a lot of ups and downs, more downs than anything. But, I continued my education in functional medicine, functional nutrition, and also lately, because of Sherry, also, energy healing, the quantum healing. And so now we're combining, both from the physical and from the spiritual aspect, and work on the healing aspect. All right, so let's get started. I made some notes here, otherwise I'm talking too much. All right, so let's start with the healthcare system. The way it's set up is, here in the United States, you have to be sick first before you can get any help. You have to be sick first with one of the age-related diseases, such as cancer, heart disease, dementia, Alzheimer, and the list goes on. And before you can get any help. As a matter of fact, if you're gonna do anything for preventative reasons, well, good luck, I tried. And insurance either doesn't pay for it or they put up a fight. And I went through this a few times, and it is the case. Even if you decide to pay cash, they still give you a hard time. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because we are at a time in history where it's actually so much easier to turn the clock back rather than waiting until you have some of those age-related diseases and then try to fight it off with, radiation and drugs and whatnot. Let's talk about aging. What is aging? We all know what it feels like, and we all know what it looks like, but what is happening on a cellular level? Why? And the big question is, do we have to age? Well, we'll see what you're going to say after at the end. Well, aging is a software issue. It's a loss of information. If you boil it down, it's a loss of information due to entropy. In the same way, as an analogy, if I would tell my imaginary friend here a story, then he repeats the story to another friend, and then that friend repeats the story to another friend, and so on. we all know well enough after go through 50 people that my original story will be distorted. There will be some degree of distortion, in the message. And our epigenome that controls methylation, the aging process, loses its information in the same pattern, for better understanding. And then what else we have? Oh, and there's two ways on how we measure aging. First we have the chronological aging, which is, according time, which in my opinion will change in the near future, mark my words, because, in my way it's very primitive, how many times Earth goes around the sun, determines your age. A more accurate way is, which we have the opportunity these days, is the biological, age, which we can measure very accurately these days. As an example, Dr. Horvath, that also happens to be from Austria, he's a professor at UCLA. He created the Horvath clock. So with that clock, it measures 353 methylation markers in your genome. And also we check, methylation, hormones, oxidative stress, and also the telomeres. Back in the days, we used to, look at the telomeres, only just to determine the aging process. Now we know it's actually multifaceted. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but it's still a good indicator, to get you a good estimate. But with this method, right, we can very accurately, tell your real biological age right now. So as an example, I'm sure you know at least 1 or 2 people in your life, let's say they're 40 years old, but they look like 30, or they look like 55. Now, if they look either older or younger, they literally are either younger or older. And many times when I did the DNA methylation test on those people, most of them were actually a few years older. Yeah, only 2 of them were actually a couple of years, younger. And then after I put them through a 6-month program, they reversed the aging by like 3 years. So it goes really fast when you do it the right way. Oh, and there's another way. Like, we even are so far ahead. If I would take your blood, I can very accurately tell you when you die. Now that means that, you might say, I don't know when I'm dying. Well, if I tell you, hey, you have 10 years to live, but hey, sorry, there's nothing I can do. You got 10 years by. But if I tell you, hey, with the current lifestyle up to that date where you took the test, you have 10 years left. But if you do some changes in your life, you can extend it to another 20 or 30. And that's where it really comes into, because we are at a time where this is actually possible. And there's 2 types of information in our DNA. 20%, for better understanding, is digital, which means it's set in stone, it cannot be changed. But we found out that 80% is epigenetics. And epigenetics responds to nutrition, environment, love, community, having a great social life, having a positive outlook in life. All that expresses itself in your genome. And so what that means is, if you translate it, that 80% on how fast you age, on how fast you get those age-related diseases, is in your hands. Now think about this. 80% is in your hands. So there was a friend of mine back in Austria, like a little guy. He always played the victim, oh, I'm a victim of my genes, I've got bad genes, there's nothing I can do, it's not my fault, it's bad genes. Well, back then, I didn't have all the knowledge, but now looking back, yeah, he was only right for about 20%. And 80% is, epigenetics, which means it's in your hands on how fast you're gonna age. Before we start with the slideshow, let's talk about our epigenome. The epigenome is what controls methylation and the aging process. But for better understanding, let's say the epigenome is like a DVD player. Anybody here knows a DVD player, right? Because some of the young kids don't know no more. So a DVD player is, let's say, let's explain it like this. At certain times, this song has to play in this cell, and then other times that song has to play in that cell. And if the right music comes on at the right time in cells, the genome can read the information, the instructions, and they know what to do. But what happens, when the CD has scratches? Because aging is like scratches in a CD. And now the genome has a hard time reading, the information on the CD. It might be distorted, or sometimes it even skips the song. Now how that translates in our genome is, we have seen, and it's actually easy to measure, that a nerve cell or a skin cell lights up in the brain. And it shouldn't even be there. But that tells you how fucked up our methylation can get over time. And that, in a nutshell, is the hallmark of aging. and why we get, so many age-related diseases. Because if you think about it, in my opinion, aging is a disease, because all the diseases come, as we age. There's nothing, when we're young, we can do anything to the body, it's not happening. Why? Because the genome can read the right instruction, everything's working perfectly.